about the online people, everything audible. I don't know if you can even type in the chat box, to be honest. Should I begin? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first day of Call for Al-Mizan, Islam and Climate Responsibility. My name is Bayan Khalid, and I'm a research fellow at the College of Islamic Studies at Hamad bin Khalifa University. We're very happy to have you join us today and hopefully tomorrow as well. To tell you a little bit more about Al-Mizan, it is a covenant for Earth that seeks to bridge the divide between religiosity and sustainability, providing guidance on the ways through which Muslims can reignite environmental activism from the Islamic tradition. Over the next couple of days, with our esteemed group of experts, we are going to learn more about it and how we can reach sustainability from an Islamic perspective. Today will be more of a workshop style, where we'll have an introduction about Al-Mizan from the Botanic team, followed by a session by the Earthna team, and finally, the Botanic garden. Tomorrow, we're going to have two panel discussions, one about general climate policies and institutions, and the other about Mizan, its applicability, and Islamic basis. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to introduce the workshop presenters of today for you. From the Mizan team, we have Dr. Iyad Abu Mahdi, who is the founder and director of the United Nations Environment Program Faith for Earth Initiative. Dr. Ibrahim Özdemir, who is an environmentalist and professor of philosophy, ecology, and religion at Ankara University in Turkey. And Dr. Adel Jayusi, an expert in sustainability and innovation. Joining us from the Earthna team, we have Ms. Ruba Hanawi, who is the technical lead. And finally, from the Quranic Botanic Garden, we have Mr. Ahmed Al-Gharib, who is a researcher. So I hope you're going to enjoy the sessions with our wonderful presenters today. And now I'll leave the floor to Dr. Evren, followed by Dr. Mustafa, to introduce themselves and give a few welcoming words before we begin.
Thank you so much, Sir Bayan. First of all, I would like to thank dear professors, Dr. Iyad, Dr. Odeh, and Dr. Ibrahim for being here today and for honoring us and in this event, and also sharing their wisdom in this wonderful process. To be honest, I have been integrated to the Al-Mizan process a little bit later, and it was through a kind of like semi-interesting story. I was taking a course as part of the United Nations training program on ethics and sustainable development goals. And we had a wonderful professor, Mark Meany, from Center for Ethics and Social Responsibility from Leeds University. And then, based on my comments and inputs, he told me that you should meet Dr. Iyad because you are thinking similar and he is doing wonderful work that you should be really articulated to. And then he introduced us. And then since then, I think there's been 5 years or so, Dr. Iyad has been very influential in my thinking and also my learning more and more on Islam, sustainability, and development. And through the Mizan, I got to meet Dr. Odeh Jayusi, which we recently published a paper together, and Dr. Ibrahim Özdemir, again, we have been working together. So this process, not only an event or an organization to me, but it's also a very integral element of my personal career development and also thinking. So therefore, once again, special thanks for giving this opportunity. And for today, the Al-Mizan is a process which you will hear and learn today from different angles. And often we get to hear and understand through the interpretation of others. But we are lucky today because we got to hear, we got to understand, we got to explore Al-Mizan from the people who are the architects of it. So first-hand experience. This is, I believe, the most important phase of this event. And moreover, as you know, Qatar Foundation has a pillar. One of the pillars is Islamic Sustainability Framework. And they were so receptive since the beginning. And we were able to integrate Al-Mizan into one of the pillars of Qatar Foundation's strategy refresh. So given all these important intersections and convergences, I believe that Al-Mizan and Qatar have a very good relationship and will be able to pursue this collaboration further. And once again, special thanks to professors for being here.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يقول تعالى في كتابه العزيز: الرحمن علم القرآن، خلق الإنسان، علمه البيان، الشمس والقمر بحسبان، السماء رفعها ووضع الميزان، ألا تطغوا في الميزان. My name is Mustafa Al-Amin. I'm a professor at CIS HPKU. I'd like to add my voice first to my colleague, Dr. Evren, to welcome our professors today and to welcome you all in our first training workshop about Al-Mizan, which is going to highlight connection between Al-Mizan and Islam. One of the objectives of the universities is to serve community. I believe that one of the most important and hot issue that taking much of time that communities globally and locally are talking about, discussing it, is climate change. That's why it should not be strange that our university, Hamad bin Khalifa University, is taking this topic as one of the most important topics that we should try to do our best in order to help the community to try to do something for it. Religions and religious-based organization has got a role to play. In fact, everybody has a responsibility. Man, woman, youth, elder, teachers, student, all of us, we have a responsibility we have to play in this issue. But today we are going, and tomorrow, inshallah, we are going to concentrate on the role of religion in order to mitigate and to put a base in order to settle this problem. We as Muslims, we believe that in the Quran, there are many verses that call for Al-Mizan. We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create a human being and create nature in a very systematic way. And whole life should go within that direction. But what is happening is that we as a human being, we try to change. We try to shift. And this shift led to the climate change, which we are now suffering of its negative impact. What we are trying to do is to raise the awareness, to tell people about the importance from a religious point of view that we as a Muslim, the imams has got a role to play. Academician has got a role to play. Families has got a role to play. Politicians has got a role to play. But in order everyone to play his role, then we should know exactly what the Quran said, what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, what is in the seer, and what is climate change, what is the negative impact of climate change on the whole life, on health, on economy, on education. This is what we are trying to do. We started today and tomorrow, and inshallah, this is going to be our effort in order to continue for the future. I welcome you again, and I hope that you will benefit and you will have a successful training workshop with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So luckily we have our speakers sitting in the order that they will be presenting. So Dr. Iyad Abu Mughni, the stage is yours.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله. Thank you very much to Qatar Foundation, Jamed Hamad, Dr. Evren, Dr. Mustafa, Bayan, Alina, everybody who has made this possible. And I'm very glad to come again to Qatar and meet good friends and new friends. I'm just gonna tell you about the history of how Al-Mizan came about and hopefully for the hopeful future for Al-Mizan. So I know how to do this.
Okay, if it's not working, I can just press it for you. It's put on sleep apparently.
Okay.
How do you unput it?
So just a bit about myself. I am the director of the Faith for Earth initiative at the United Nations Environment Program. You know, the United Nations Environment Program is a UN institution responsible for keeping the environment under review and putting the policies and decisions and resolutions at the global level and discussing and bringing the sustainability component into the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030 or the Sustainable Development Goals. And the Faith for Earth initiative was established in 2017. And the basic principle behind it is that the world, as Dr. Mustafa mentioned, is facing tremendous challenges. You know, specifically talking about environmental challenges, let alone other economic and social challenges. And this is why the Sustainable Development Goals have been approved and ratified by 193 countries in 2015 and started the implementation in 2016. And one principle of the Sustainable Development Goals is the partnership, because no one single country can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals without partnering with other countries, because environment does not know borders and everything has to be in collaboration. So Goal 17 is on partnership and the role of all stakeholders. And here we mean by stakeholders, governments, civil society, non-governmental organizations, the private sector, and all the spectrum of players. Now, what we're saying is we are in a stage where we are abusing our resources. And as we are facing what we call the triple planetary crisis of climate change, nature degradation, and pollution, we have thought about the genesis or the basics or basis for what is happening really. And it is in fact a crisis of morality, of values, of ethics, and of sustainable, non-sustainable or unsustainable consumption and production. So instead of only working on the face of it, which are the environmental issues, we have to tackle the essential and basics of our ethical behavior and moral responsibility towards the environment. And when you look at the religions in general, there is a research that says 84% of people living on Earth believe in a religion or in a faith. And look at the structure of religions and their distributions. Christianity represents 2.2 billion people. Islam represents 1.8 to 1.9 billion people. Hinduism and Buddhism almost 1 billion each, and the other religions. So the institutional religions, if you would like to call it this, represents most of the humanity, and 84% of them believe in a religion. And religions actually are based on a value system or system of values and ethics. They all agree on certain principles, and definitely they all agree on our responsibility towards the environment. All religions talk about how man or humans should behave and should interact with the environment. So, based on the ethical principles of religions, Pope Francis in 2015 brought about what is called Laudato Si, which is his letter to humanity. First, it was to Catholics, and then became an international letter to humanity. And what he has done is exactly what we're trying to do, is translating what the Bible says about the man's responsibility towards the environment and how their behaviors have led to where we are today, and how the Bible talks about our responsibility. So it became an international movement, and it talks basically about the integral ecology, the ecology that integrates social and economic principles into it, and the moral responsibility of humans. And it stopped working. Right. So what we have been doing, we're not starting from scratch. And maybe some of you are professors in Islamic studies and so on, and have done great work on Islam and the environment. Also, there are other studies from other religions. But specifically, let me say, the collective movement on Islam and the environment started in 2015, when there was discussions and preparations for the Paris Agreement, and the climate change declaration of Muslims was issued at that time, and the responsibility of Muslims towards the environment. And there have been some publications around it, but it was usually or generally the studies about the Islam environment very general and or very specific to a basic theme. So we wanted to make that more comprehensive. And then next slide, please. And then in 2018, actually, we met at the 8th Council of Islamic Ministers on the environment. And at that time, I have been discussing the issue of the moral responsibility towards the environment with ISISCO, which is the Islamic Council of on Education and Culture, which is the scientific arm of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And at the 8th Council of Islamic Ministers, we submitted a strategy for the engagement of religions and the environment. So the strategy was adopted at the 8th Council. And then with Dr. Fazloon, I think he's online, or he's going to be attending with us. And with Cisco staff, we said we need to take this further and come up with something that brings the Islamic nation together on environmental issues and present to not only policymakers or institutions, but also the ordinary people, a system that they can use on their daily use, or whether they are citizens or they are private sector or CEOs or whatever. We need to bring the knowledge that exists in Islamic principles into something that they all can use. So we have debated what should be the title of Al-Mizan, or the effort together. So many other principles were discussed from an Islamic principles like Fitra and other many things, at Tawheed, because they all relate to our responsibility towards the environment. So Al-Mizan was a more comprehensive, inclusive principle within Al-Quran Al-Kareem and the practices of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Islamic culture in general. So this is exactly what we have built Al-Mizan on, using Al-Quran Al-Kareem as the basic teachings and principles on Al-Mizan and how our relationship is with the environment, as well as As-Sira Al-Nabawiyya and all the practices over 1400 years of Islam. So we brought all of that together, of course, building on the previous work and analysis and assessment of other principles within Islam. So the draft has been finalized in a shura way, consultative way. We have consulted more than 350 Islamic institutions and scholars around the world. And then we have composed a team who is the next slide. Let's start. So, and we have composed a team, which is the core team that brings the thinking as well as recruit the scholars to work with us. And of course, Dr. Ibn, Dr. Ibrahim are members of this core team. And then we search who is working on Islam and the environment from around the world. Of course, we know Islam has many sects like Sunni, Shia, Ismaili, and so on and so forth. So we tried to be inclusive in the editorial team of Mizan to represent the different perspectives and different aspects of Islam and the relationship with the environment. So next slide talks about the chapters or Mizan, Bayan. Yeah. So we need to bring the principles of Islam to the contemporary life of people. So we linked it to the issues that we face on a daily basis, whether it is economic issues, whether it is principles of social life, what is happening in development, the cosmic system, environmental issues. So the first chapter talks about these issues and what we are facing on a daily basis and what we will be facing in the future, because this should be something that lives with us and continues to live with us. Then we described in the different chapters the basic principles of Islam, taking it from different value systems and each meaning of the principles of Islam. You would imagine that we only talked about, for example, things like specifically and precisely talking about plants and animals and so on. No, but we looked deeper into the meanings of Islamic principles like at-tawheed, and what does at-tawheed mean, for example, in terms of nature and how it is related to the protection of animals and plants and so on. So we went into deep assessment of that. So Al-Mizan, hopefully, and this is the plan, is not going to be a book or a document that you might read or you might not read, and you might open and you might, just pick a chapter and so on. We are aiming to have a movement of Al-Mizan, a movement that addresses our life and how our lives, because our lives, all Muslims and all Christians and all Jews and all Buddhists, they relate their behaviors to what they believe in. Yes, the secular system has environmental ethics, but at the end of the day, what governs is what is in your heart and what you believe in your mind. So we want this to be a movement. So first of all, we thought of establishing a Mizan Academy, because what we have in the 100 or so pages of Al-Mizan are only principles and how we relate them to the environment. But they, if you go deep, each principle, you can write books and articles and do much of research. So we want to establish Al-Mizan Academy to introduce this into the education system of whether it is universities, schools, or whatever, but also to be a basic part of our knowledge system. Also, we believe that without action by the public, by the general people, you can establish a little bit, but you cannot be comprehensive. So we want to establish an organization that takes Al-Mizan and makes it a movement, a public movement that goes to universities, schools, plant trees, go to charity organizations and provide do waste collection, for example, recycling, use the circular economy, economy into whatever we do. So this should be led by the public. The next slide presents the another aspect that we are thinking of, which is the decade of action. So we want to mobilize people to move, all together and to make an impact within a certain period of time, right? Similarly, the Laudato Si movement of the Catholic Church, they have adopted the Laudato Si decade of action. So they are mobilizing the entire global community towards that objective. And then another one is relying on our young people. Young people have actually established their presence, and they have established that they have a voice, and their voice is becoming more powerful. But also, we want to mobilize their actions and their enthusiasm. And instead of the young people being frustrated, for example, and resort to the the negative understanding of their belief into a positive impact and influence on the public. So mobilizing young people is very important. And the following one is on
Sorry.
Nominate your champion, which is establishing a prize, an international prize, for any efforts towards integrating the principles of Al-Mizan into their actions and at the global level, and having an influence, like the UN Secretary General Award on SDG action. So we could establish also one to incentivize and reward people who do take actions. And to be able to do so, we of course need to mobilize resources. We of course hope to build on the enthusiasm of the people to take actions themselves in their daily lives, in their communities, and so on. But also, we have to establish a trust fund that can, mobilize resources for all these actions to take place. A network, because education and reaching out and connecting universities in the Islamic world or with other institutions. There are Islamic schools outside of our countries more than there are inside, talking about or teaching Islamic principles or theology or Islamic scholarships and so on. Again, this will have to be celebrated on an annual basis to keep people informed, to celebrate, to select a thematic area or a thematic principle each year, maybe to cut across the global principles. For example, the United Nations Environment Program selects every year a thematic area where we bring the attention of the international community to that. For example, one time is on air pollution, the other time on biodiversity or ecosystems and so on. So again, to mobilize actions towards one thematic area will be something to celebrate on an annual basis. And then we want to keep, the knowledge system alive and bring scholars from different parts of the world to debate and to come up with innovative ways of thinking about Islam and the environment and so on. Of course, we're hoping to establish Al-Mizan mosques. We establish what are the principles of Al-Mizan in each of the and every mosque. For example, a mosque that is totally run on solar systems, totally irrigated by natural systems, recycles its water, and so on and so forth. Again, similarly, schools, Al-Mizan schools, Al-Mizan cities. There is one of the rewards, I think, of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation is the capital of Islamic culture. that is awarded on a yearly basis. So again, we could do the same and establish Al Mizan City, which is the best city in adopting Al Mizan principles. So what we have been up to so far, actually there are now 5 languages. English is ready, Arabic is almost ready, French is almost ready, Turkish is ready, finished, and Indonesian. So we have a Mizan document in 5 languages. We need it to be adopted because it is not a UN document. We don't want people to think it's a UN document. It's a document by Muslims for the Muslims. And we want it to be institutionally approved. This is why we are submitting it this December to the Council of Islamic Ministers for the Environment. So it becomes a document that is adopted by an Islamic body, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, that brings Muslims together. Because it cannot be a Sunni document or Shia document, or whatever. It has to be a comprehensive document adopted by everybody. Advocacy, we want to make a lot of advocacy around it. We hope people will talk about the principles and the contributions of Muslims towards the global environment. So a lot of advocacy will need to be put into it, and then the creation of the movement of Al-Mizan, so it becomes something that everybody talks about and everybody implements in their daily lives. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iyad. And now I welcome to the floor Dr. Ibrahim Ozdemir.
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد بعدد أوراق الأشجار وأنبات البحار وقطرات الأمطار. My name is Ibrahim Ozdemir. I am from beautiful Istanbul, Üsküdar University. I did my PhD on environmental ethics in 90s. Then my professor taught me, this is a tribal subject. Please choose a serious subject on Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, or on Plato, Aristotle, idea. I said I respect you, but I got not to talk to work on environmental ethics because at that time I have 4 children. Now I have 3 grandchildren. So I said I have to think about their future. Kind of future they're gonna live in. I have to think in advance. They don't have this chance to think themselves. But now things are just, I translated it for the very good article I translated for Turkish. It is by eco-psychologist Earthna from University of Bath in the UK. He said, I have a message. I am up late at night, worrying that my baby brothers may die from global warming and other threats to the humanity. Please, can you put my mind at rest? I couldn't sleep. Sophie, age 17, East Sussex, UK. And the psychologist says, I know from my work as a psychotherapist and with the climate psychology alliance that most of other young people are worrying about global warming and the climate crisis. There is even a term for it, it is eco-anxiety. And then she also goes on, he says some young people, they commit suicide because of the global warming and their effects and their imagination, because they don't have spiritual resources to resist this. So, later I attended a conference in Morocco as a guest of the King of Morocco. I'm very honored to be the guest of Qatar Foundation and University, because many Muslims countries, they're still not aware of the problem. And then we met a lot of environmental friends. a very interesting gentleman. He's Canadian, lives in Cape Town, but he's Buddhist. But do you know what he's converted to Buddhism? Because he said the scientific worldview of 17th, 18th, and 19th and 20th century does not satisfy my soul for meaning in the universe. The universe is, like Cartesian philosophy teaches us, is lifeless and meaningless and spiritless. But when I studied Buddhism, it was said there is a life in the nature. There is a spirit in the nature. We have to respect every single thing in the nature. Then I decided to convert to Buddhism. Then I began to visit the whole African continent. I just started from Morocco to Iraq, all North Africa and some other, Sahara countries. I visited villages, I visited many places. I asked my Muslim environmentalist friends here to answer my question. I also read the Quran. And as Professor Mustafa and Iyad said, and the Surah Al-Rahman is one of the best chapters in the Quran. It says there is a Mizan in nature, in the universe. But when I visited the farms, villages, reef, in Morocco, in Algeria, in Tunis, and Egypt, the villagers, they don't care about Mizan. They just extra used to the water. They just don't. They don't respect water. They don't respect natural resources. They don't consider underground water has a Mizan, has a limit. They just consume it. Could you answer my questions? The all were quiet. This is one of the reasons behind El Mizan. Not only me, Iyad, all the many other friends, we have to think deeply on our tradition, on Quran, on the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ, and come up with some solutions for young generation, or otherwise for young children or grandchildren. They will just have the same psychological anxiety. So we have to discover our tradition. And nowadays it is you feel, the many words the psychologists they are using to help people. They say you have to develop a spirit of heartfulness. You have to be mindfulness. Then you will be well-being. But just when we look at our legacy, as Ruba said, I just very much like your Earthna, the name of your organization, because it connects us to somewhere. One day, Prophet Muhammad was telling his friends, his Sahaba, he said, one day, the story, one day a man was thirsty, was traveling, was thirsty, and when he discovered a well in the desert, he went and he drank water. When he cleaned out the well, he saw a dog is licking the mud of the around the well. He just was mindful. He understood. He says, "Oh, he is also thirsty like me." And he, or in some riwayat, she went back and brought some water and gave to the dog. So he says, because of this, Allah was so pleased, and He forgave all his mistakes or all what bad behavior, and sent him or her to Jannah. And they asked, "Oh, this is a reward for giving, water to a dog?" He said, "Yes, because he was rahmatan lil alamin, and Allah was saying, kutiba ala nafsihi rahmah." Look at in the Quran, in the beginning of each chapter, each surah, 114 times, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So we have to be heartful. We have to be heartful. We have to feel the pain, the anxiety of all children, all grandchildren, the anxiety of all creatures, the anxiety of Pakistani people, the anxiety of poor nations in Africa and other parts of the world. This is Mizan, not only the anxiety of broken families. Believe me, we have many friends we are working with, Jewish, Christian, European, secular people. They are also looking for a solution for us. Just remember, I remember very well as an environmentalist, the new king of UK, Great Britain, Charles the Third. He gave a lecture on Islam and environment in 2010 at Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. He said, I studied the Quran. And the Quran says Allah created the whole universe and with a purpose, with a meaning, and with a limit. Therefore, Muslims have to respect this limit, and we Europeans we have to learn from the Muslims about how to care about the environment. The problem not the problem is from us. And the late Mikhail Gorbachev, the last president of SSR, Soviet Socialist Republic. I met him in person in Lyon in 2002. He said, we have to understand the religious message. We have to develop a spirit of ethical responsibility. Otherwise, we cannot solve these problems. You see, because he said, just in my government was we are destroying the nature. I couldn't see it because of Chernobyl. I couldn't see it because of other environmental problems. I am hiding from my people. My people, they don't know. They are causing the problem. Then I closed 1,300 factories because they were poisoning, they were killing the nature. So today we are just taking a step, a humble step, right? As our prophet says, they walk humbly on the earth. It's a humble step. With your energy, with your dua, with your prayers, with your input, it's gonna be a big initiative, not only for us, not only for our children and kids, and all humanity asking for help from us. Many friends of us, when they in our talk, we say Sayyidina Musa, Sayyidina Ibrahim, Sayyidina Isa, they say, oh, do you believe in these prophets? It is not only, we are also teaching them, we are also educating them about the message of Islam. So, from the just remember, the Quran for 13 years in Mecca changed the perception of Muslim people. There was no zakat in the Mecca period, there was no Hajj, there was no Salah. Only Salat was after Laylatul Miraj. But there was الذين يؤمنون بالغيب والعصر إن الإنسان لخسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. They were firm in belief, and they were doing عمل صالح. It means good ethics, because the prophet says جئت أتمم مكارم الأخلاق. مكارم الأخلاق للبشر، للإنسان، للأمة، ولكن لكل العالم، وكانت رحمة للعالمين. So it is very important to remember all this role. And before Quran, it was just, the nature, the universe, meaning this purpose is just a nature. But the first ayah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Iqra, Bismi Rabbika allazi khalaq. So creation, so there is a creator who creates, who sustains. It's Rabb al-Alamin. So we start from here, and we are basing all project on the Quranic worldview, on the Islamic values, on the examples taken from the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We need your help, we need your dua. Thank you very much.
Can I ask Dr. Everett to introduce while I'm doing this? Yeah, it was.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
Working?
Sorry, just
No
give
problem.
me.
If it's not working, I can manage.
Just okay.
No, I'll try to be different. I thought it to be more of a training. So I'll do some brainstorming. I'll ask you to do some exercises. For the first exercise, I'd like to share with you one word called the metaphor, the implication or the notion of what does Mizan mean to you in any language. It could be in quantum physics, it could be in politics, international relations, core and periphery, it could be in architecture, the golden ratio, it could be in physics, it could be in biology, etc., etc. So please try to write one word of the implication of what does Mizan mean to you in your discipline. It could be public policy, astronomy, whatever. So you have, thank you. Excellent, thank you. Okay. Shall we do some brainstorming, some ideas? Anybody interested to share some thoughts? Please. Equilibrium. Okay, physics, equilibrium, seesaw, the seesaw. Balance, a tool, could be a tool. الوسط, nations between لا إفراط ولا تفريط. كلمة سواء, a common word. And the wasat is not the average in math, or the median or the mode. It's rather the best of all nations. So it's the optimal or suboptimal. Any ideas, please? Harmony, excellent, excellent. Harmony in terms of the suboptimality between the social domain, the economic domain, or the governance domain, the policy domain. Please. Justice, Mizan. Other thoughts?
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness, absolutely, absolutely. The harmony, the unity between mind and soul, the unity between natural sciences and physical sciences, unity between origin and destination. Interesting. Other thoughts? Please. العلم. Mizan, you need balance in terms of science, in terms of objective reality. How do you define objective reality? Yes. Compliance in terms of rules, absolutely. Rights and obligations. Okay, interesting. Okay, okay. And then in every discipline, if you look at your body, look at water, the buoyancy water in terms of the properties of water, how you see things. You see here, you have a certain liquid in your eye that it has a certain index. And if you look at cosmology, there are 6 constants. So Mizan, it's all encompassing. So Mizan, this is you tried some notions, but I think if you dig deep, you will write more.
Also, to just
Seem like
that is so important.
absolutely, absolutely. The inside. So let me share this notion with you. Once I was at Buckingham University doing some knowledge management exercise, and there was people coming from Asia, specializing in quantum physics, but doing some knowledge management exercise, and he stated this notion that one is born twice. Once when he sees light, and the other times when a bird is born twice. Once when it hatches, it sees light, and once when it flies, it becomes enlightened. So I did this exercise in Lebanon and in Ajloon. I'm trying to do the women environmentalists. I'm trying to see when you were born, when did you see light? And somebody, I think in Lebanon, she was shouting at the table saying, "Oh, the doctor, I was not born yet. I did not see light." It's all 40. So we have 7 billion people living on this earth, and they passed away without being born. So we need to be aware this type of consciousness, mindfulness, awareness, in terms of self-awareness, who we are, where are we going, especially after COVID, the idea of the butterfly effect. So seeing light, if you look at the metaphor of water, the metaphor we live by, you look about the innovation journey. In many cases, most of the problems in policy, in environment, in economics, it starts with this. Even when you want to get married, you're in engagement, so you're trying to find your appropriate couple. Messy. Things can be very messy. If you have conflict resolution with Dr. Sultan Barakat, was trying to resolve,
Or if you talk about environment, Dr. Tok was trying or Dr. Iyad, when he's trying to find sustainable solution, it's very easy. The reality can be very complex. We call it a wicked problem. So a wicked problem, you need to tame in policy, you need to tame public problem by certain analysis of the problem. Okay. As you know, we live in a VUCA time. A VUCA time is basically we live in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous era. So this is a VUCA time that we need to adapt, because as we can see, there's a lot of asymmetry in terms of disparity between incomes. There's a lot of disruption in terms of society, in terms of relationship between man and technology, man and ecology. And also there is the age issue in terms of the pyramid of the population. And also there is polarization in terms of nationalism versus deglobalization and the idea of extremism and Islamophobia. Again, there's a lot of trust between governments. Do you trust governments, especially after COVID? Sometimes we can again trust in public sector and science. So this is, we need to adapt to these things. And in many cases, does people matter? When you look at the equity issue, the widening gap between the have and the have-nots, when you look at the planetary boundaries, in terms of that, realizing that the 25 richest people has more than half of the weight of the entire universe. Can you imagine? So there is more than 1 billion people living on $1 per day. So this type of disparity between the have and the have-nots, we need to look at what we call blind spots. So we suffer from ecological amnesia. There is what we suffer from nature deficit disorder. I remember 10 years ago, I was visiting with my kids. They were young kids to Lebanon forests, and they were crying. They said, "No, we don't want to see trees. We see people Jordan. We'd like to play games. We'd like to play with digital games." So there is what we call a nature deficit disorder, not AHD, NDD. So again, what Mizan is not only about cultural diversity, but also biological diversity. How many minutes? 5 minutes? Okay, sure. Oh, sorry, the mic. Okay, sorry. So basically, we need to look at redefining happiness, redefining progress, and redefining what constitutes a good life. In early 2006, I was part of a think tank, people from Cambridge in Switzerland. They were trying to look at the future of sustainability and trying to define what constitutes a good life. So one thinker from Germany argued that if we want to define sustainability, we need to define what constitutes good life. And when I looked back, I was in Bahrain, I said, oh, what's good life? It's Hayat Tayyiba. You know Hayat Hotel. Hayat Hotel. It's Hayat Tayyiba. So what is about Hayat? So let me ask you in half a minute, try to write one word about what is good life for you. What constitutes a good life for you? For my son, it's Bentley, Tesla, right? An iPhone, right? This is good life. Or Rolex, you know, ask for a Rolex, right? So what is a good life? Idea, please.
Dignity.
Dignity. ولقد كرمنا بني آدم. Excellent. Health, تمام. الصحة راس المال. Success. النجاح. What is success? Again. الراحة. جميل. الراحة. Peace. Inner peace. What is good life? Money talks. Okay, money talks. No, okay.
I tell you.
Yes, please.
It's a balance of everything they
It's
said.
Mizan. You need a Mizan.
Mizan.
You need a Mizan. Please, man.
Someone online said gratitude.
Oh, interesting. Gratitude. Appreciation. Gratitude. نعم. منعم. Harmony. Jamil. Beautiful. Thank you.
Content.
Jamil. Interesting. So basically, we need to
Belonging.
belonging. The sense of belonging. In many cases, capitalism talks about belongings, not the sense of belonging. So we need to shift the mindset from having more belongings to have a sense of belonging to community, to cosmos, to nature. So again, I think I'd like to talk about becoming enlightened. The metaphor will by, we did the exercise of, because I was asked to do some training. The metaphor will by. Any ideas about this picture? Does it give you any notions? Seeds for hope, cut a foundation. Okay. Now, the metaphor will by. I'd like also another exercise. In 1 minute, I'd like every one of you to write the Mizan in these 4 words, in Arabic and English. So try to write, please draw, try a new notebook, try to use these 4 metaphors to what is the Mizan for these 4 words. One is insight, basira. What is the Mizan for it? Center of gravity, center of mass, core and periphery. Okay, the center of compass. What is the Mizan for a compass? Center of mass, center of gravity, statics 101, page 32. Abaya, you know Abaya. Abaya, anybody knows Abaya? What is the Mizan for Abaya? I was in Egypt and there was a German lady, scholar and water scholar. She was telling me when I was in Umayyad Mosque, I put Abaya and it was a liberating experience. She's a Catholic, she's not a Muslim. So dressing an abaya in Damascus and walking in near Umayyad Mosque, it was for me a liberating experience. Different perspective, different Mizan, the identity. So what is the Mizan for abaya? What is the Mizan for shape? And try to write shape. I have a debate with my son. They will have debates about different things. And we debate about which is more stable, going over a mountain or riding on a ship. Remember the story of Prophet Noah and his son. His son thought that in order to avoid the flood, culturally, rationalism, pragmatism, right? Positivism is to go on a mountain. It's more stable, right? And for him, which is more stable? Going on a ship with Noah, سفينة نوح، قال لا عاصم اليوم من امر الله الا من رحم. وحال بينهم الموت فكان من المغرقين. He said, no, I'll go to the mountain. It's more stable. No, go on a ship on the water. And the idea of stability will change. The idea of security, human security. For his son, it was the mountain that can be a perception, an idea that it can be more secure. For his father, it was the ship. You know the result. So I'd like from you in half a minute, you can talk to each neighbor, to your neighbor, please talk to your neighbor. Try to discuss what is the Mizan of these 3 words. The insight, basira. There's a distinction between sight and insight. فإنها لا تعمل أبصار ولكن تعمل قلوب التي في الصدور. So it's not about sight, it's about insight. What is the Mizan for insight? A compass. Which is more important, a compass or a watch? What do you think, Bayan? A compass or a watch? All of us has a watch, but we don't have a compass sometimes.
I think
We have GPS. Okay. Abaya, anyone wants to reflect on these 4 notions? Because it's meant to be a training rather than a lecture. Any idea? Please, your name, ID number, Gmail.
you can use the mic.
I can't hear you, sorry.
Yeah, each person has a mic if they want to. Yeah.
Please.
And I graduated from a Master's in Applied Islamic Ethics in 2021.
Congratulations.
And my thesis was Genetically Modified Foods, Islamic Ethical Perspective.
GMOs. Okay, excellent. Excellent. والبلد الطيب يخرج نباته بإذن ربه والذي يحب ولا نكد. If you eat polluted GMO food with GMOs, you will be naked. You know what's naked in Arabic? And that's when you walk sometimes with sleep to Arab cities. So I may have to Morocco, you see people are bad tempered. بلد الطيب يخرج نباته بإذن ربه.
But they must manage.
Please, sorry. This is commercial break. Go ahead.
So I think all these 4 categories relate to deeper connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And tawakkul.
Somebody mentioned mindfulness.
So your link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it strengthens when you think about all these.
The ship or the mountain?
Of course.
The faith.
Faith.
You have
Faith will either take you to the ship or the mountain.
Dr. Riyadh program. Okay. Faith, absolutely. Thank you. And other comments, please, your name, your address, your Gmail.
Uh, I'm Tatiana Cole, physician by training.
Excellent.
I think if we are grounded in what we believe and what we explore, the ship can be fine, the mountain can be fine. We have that balance.
Or the drone, maybe. Yeah, okay.
I think that's
Interesting. But
important.
here, in these metaphors, which is the Mizan in these metaphors?
So the balance for the balance for the compass, I think it depends on how it's made.
Excellent.
Then for the abaya, it depends how the person feels with the environment. And as you mentioned today in the masters, it can be very liberating.
Absolutely.
And it depends with the environment, where we belong, and how we feel with what we carry. For the insight, depends what is our introspective and
The power of
what we are able to do.
we have two. Your name, your address.
Wasala, that means how to survive, how to go to my goal, and to survive myself, about the ship. Same thing with the Prophet Muhammad. Noah alayhi salam, he ship to survive his things. And think that it's when we use the wise, and it's comes up with my head, Prophet Muhammad's story. When he was at the stone in the middle, and to survive to make the solution between the troubles.
Collective action.
Exactly.
Collective action.
So why this words comes now in my head.
Excellent. Well done. Thank you. We'll conclude with our friends from the global citizens. So, please. Can you do microphone?
So my wife is from Malaysia, my family's from West Africa. I'm a citizen of the world. Exactly. So my name is Layman, I'm an education civil law, and I'm very happy to be here, honored actually to be hearing directly from people that I kind of read their works, because my interest when I was a student here at the College of Islamic Studies was on responsibility, I guess, environmental ethics from an Islamic perspective, because we shouldn't just be about the talk, we should be about the walk. It's in our faith, but then yet we see it lacking in the Muslim world. And you go to Switzerland and you look at the lake, and the lake you can literally drink from. I always wondered that why is it? And I went to Syria one time, and I was standing on a bridge over the Euphrates River, and people were coming with buckets and throwing things into the river. And I'm like, well, why? Why would you do that? And they're like, yeah, but it's going down there at all. So anyway, but to kind of answer this really quickly here, the one word I would think about is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is the hadith that we all try to learn when we're learning Arba'in Nawawi, and when Amal bin Niyat, because the intention kind of like would determine then what it is that you want to do, right? Nobody else would be able to see that except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is our intention. You have the intention of you have a ship, but I mean, if you don't have an intention about where you want to go, you'll just be literally in the ocean between, territories, or just there. It could be. And then again, the abaya, you could literally cover, it comes from like a load, you can literally cover, but then what's the intention behind the covering? All right, exactly. Was it modesty, or was that something else, right? Some people, of course, that's what they say, at least anyway, right? But it's the intention, it's not just a cloth, right? It's the whole framework of modesty. Same thing with a compass. I mean, you need to know your intention. Are you looking for the qibla? Are you looking for something else? And consider that insight again, are you looking away, lowering your gaze? But what's the intention? So I think the intention kind of like helps kind of guide what it is that you want to ultimately achieve.
Thank you very much. The intention maybe is to use Mizan as a framework for training for leaders. new green leaders, new future leaders. So we might use this framework as transformational leaders that how we embody the notions of transformation using insights, contrast, data, and action. Trying to make this can help you.
Yeah.
5 minutes. I'll share it to one of you after this. It's very hard to talk. We use this exercise between the difference between Newton and Einstein. So this will be the final example. Please write this note. So what's the difference between Newton and Einstein? Newton was thinking of 3 dimensions, X, Y, and Z. Length. Now Einstein added a 4th dimension. What was the 4th dimension? Physics 101, page 32.
Time.
You missed this class. Okay. Physics 101, page time. So basically, in the classical physics, Newton was looking at the world in classical physics, X, Y, Z, 3 dimensions. Einstein added a 4th dimension, which is time. For sustainability, people talk about 3 pillars: society, economy, ecology. The question is for you: what would be the 4th dimension? Any ideas? What do you think? There is a missing 4th dimension, perhaps. What do you think? Ethics could be the Mizan. So there is a missing dimension. So part of the work of the Mizan with Dr. Iyad, Dr. Ibrahim, is to try to find the new meta-narrative, the new discourse about the 4th dimension beyond classical sustainability. So we need to look at a new sustainability in the 21st century that is based on faith, beauty, and we need to look at new metrics for sustainability. It's not only about GDP. We need to look at about happiness and what's happiness, and we need more of the economy. We've done this. I tried this morning. I was in Abu Dhabi trying to catch my plane to Doha. In the business launch, I was trying to draw these figures in front of you. And then I realized that I have only 5 minutes for my plane. So I was running. I was trying to look at these 4 dimensions. One is the discourse of Mizan. The discourse. And so Ibrahim, the metaphor of a good word is like a flourishing tree. مثل كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة. أصلها ثابت وفروعها في السماء. تؤتي أكلها كل حين بإذن ربها. So the metaphor of a good tree is like a good word is like a good tree. It's always giving fruits. The other one is about you need to link this discourse into an action. The idea what Dr. Ibrahim was talking about, you need to have action. آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات والعصر وقل اعملوا. And then موازين. When we look at سورة الأنبياء ونضع الموازين وقصة يوم القيامة. So there's ميزان and موازين. There is accountability and there's an ecosystem. The community, ميثاق المدينة, the charter of Medina, which is about social charter, it talks about an ecosystem. So the ecosystem of a community is like a networked forest that is strengthening each other. So can you help them? I need to move to the next. So this was in Dubai, and trying to write this. In Surah Al-Hadith, if you look at Surah Al-Hadith, the last page of Surah Al-Hadith, Quran talks about 3 terminologies. We do qualitative data analysis methodology, trying to find concepts and themes, and trying to do cluster of themes, using ground theory like Dr. Oblow's work. So الكتاب الله إن نزلنا أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان وأنزلنا الحديث في بعض الشيء. So there are 3 words. One is kitab, revelation. One is mizan at different levels, at cosmos, at human dealings, and as a tool, as a method. And also al-hadith. So I'm walking through Abu Dhabi airport trying to catch my plane to Qatar. I looked on my left and there was a caravan of huge airplanes made of hadith, made of steel. And I looked on my left, there was a huge building by Zahl Hadith. Can you imagine? So I was fascinated to see there is kitab, it's about revelation. The revelation is about our compass. It's compass, you need a compass. We need a destination. It doesn't matter your understanding, what matters is your sense of direction. We need to set a direction. Balance is about justice, that Dr. Iyad and Dr. Ibrahim eloquently talked about. I will not elaborate. And Al-Hadid, it's not all about Al-Hadid. Not the planes, the Emirates, Ittihad planes, Manafi' al-Nas. It's about the construction of the earth. Amarat al-Ard, Imran. You know Imran? You know Ibn Imran? Yes, I know Imran. Imran is the construction. So you need to have this construction that you need steel. So I will not elaborate on this. I think Dr. Iyad and Dr. Ibrahim talked about the ecological. I think some people argue that socialism or communism collapsed because it did not tell us the social truth. And capitalism may collapse since it does not tell us the ecological truth. So again, Mizan and water. Usually, if you look at biology, page 32, remember? Biology, water. How can fish live in water? Water has a unique property. Anybody want to share? Folks, chemistry 101? H2O. H2O, exactly. Excellent. Freezing. When it freezes from lower part to upper part or vice versa. It's the only solvent, the only liquid that it freezes from. When it freezes, the density will be lower. So it freezes from top to otherwise you will have no life in oceans or rivers. The only unique liquid, there is a balance. Water is based on balance. And you talk about gender balance between male and female, and you talk about NaCl, sodium and calcium or hydrogen and oxygen, there is a balance. Single can be very volatile. When you have a compound, there is stability. Design in water, we talked about that. Landing on the moon, mission economy, when I'll stop here, right? Yes, I'll stop. I have instructions from, I'll stop here by looking at, I refer to you, please look at this, it's for the final exam. Astonishing simplicity of everything. This is for the final exam. Read this YouTube, this is YouTube. This will be the second question, 20%. He'll talks about this idea that we are waves. The time and space, when you look at time and space, it's very simple. There is constants. You look at it. I will not talk too much. We are just waves. There is a possibility between wave 0 and 1, and there is interaction between time and space. And there is consciousness of matter. The behavior of the electron, when the observer watches the electron, it changes its behavior. So there is consciousness of the matter, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So ready for the final exam. Thank you.
Thank you to all three of you for these wonderful insights. So, as Dr. Self mentioned, we'll make it quick. I have been doing research on, I've been making papers on, say, rethinking sustainability in Islamic perspective, and I happened to come across articles on Ecomina, where you mentioned how Prophet ﷺ had actually these zones like Hima and Haram established around Medina. And also, I mean, when we think about that, was really something I have never heard about. Very recently, I read across. So something that we Muslims are not aware of. the environmental actions taken by Prophet himself, or at least maybe they are aware of, but we have not put so much, into practice. So how do we convey this to the current generation, as in when we teach that, okay, in the hadith it says that even if you are at a flowing river, you should be mindful of the water you use. But then we go to the mosque and we run the tap all open and we are not mindful of it, either us or our younger ones. So how can we instill in them? I believe personally that if we don't put them in such a situation where they understand the seriousness of it, they wouldn't put it into practice. So is there any way we can, put it into practice or practicality of these concepts that we have?
Wonderfully
Your baby, your baby.
So I think if anyone thinks that master's topic is one. So can you respond very briefly?
Yeah, very briefly on. Thank you very much for the question. This is exactly what we want to do, to make everybody aware. You know, the Muslim culture for 1400 years, a little bit less. During the Dark Ages, what is called the Dark Ages, you know that? They were never Dark Ages. They were Dark Ages for Europe. But for us, they were the golden ages. Unfortunately, after the colonization and the fall of the Ottoman Empire and so on, our region got occupied, and since then we have been struggling to get out of the colonization and instead of getting out and going back to the golden ages of Islam and the Arabic culture and so on, we jumped into the Western culture. There's no harm of learning from it and taking the best out of it. But the harm is to forget your own culture. This is exactly everybody, when you talk and you do research on what Islam has contributed, you would find wonderful things. But it is only in the history books. We don't bring that and make it, our daily incentives to do more and better and contribute to international community. This is why we want this is Al Mizan movement to be a driver for every single person, all right, in their daily lives, in their institutions, in their communities, in their cities, and so on. So we rely on you to take these messages. Okay, don't wait for Qatar Foundation to fund such a program. Just start among yourselves and colleagues and friends and talk about the principles. We don't want Al Mizan per se, just the principles that we all behold and run with them. And yes, go back to, and the fourth element of sustainable development is cultural development, which was dropped off. It was a main principle in Agenda 21 and 19 and 2000. But then when the Sustainable Development Goals came about, they forgot about culture. And culture, which is the ethical values, the religious systems, and the practices of our ancestors are very important to drive our behaviors. The decade of ecosystem restoration, which UNEP has launched with FAO last year, now thinks about what are the old practices of people and indigenous people, so we bring them back because those sustained humanity for centuries. Why it's not helping us now? So we have to go back and indeed, please just keep discussing it and promote going back to our own ethical and ethics and principles. Thank you.
Just, when we have this pandemic, the first thing we have done, accept we have a pandemic. Because initially, many scientists, medical people, they say it is just to be influence Chinese. In Turkey, some medical doctors say all genes different from the Chinese. There is no reason to for any anxiety, to disturb. But when they are accepted the problem, all scientists, medical people around the world, they begin to solve the problem 24 hours, 7 days. So what we have to, we can't, Dr. We have to do very well. We have still have in terms of colonial classes on us. I studied almost all biological classes in modern times, starting with Muhammad Eker, which we published in 1934, I think, and all others. They are all present Prophet as a commander, as a leader, as a political genius. But they don't care about his treatment with his camel kaswa, or his treatment with animals, or with the nature, with the universe, with the dog. So we have to make this a part of what we do. Then you find the solution. Thank you.
More comments?
Building more connections.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And I will start by poor me, coming after the three professors and their talk. I really feel sorry for myself, but hopefully, thank you very much. But hopefully, I'll be like just more or less wrapping so just shared with us and trying to put it in an application methodology. Again, my name is Earthna for Sustainable Future, and I'm honored to be with you today and with the professors, the architects of Mizan, to try to share with you our vision of mission and how we're doing an attempt to try to maybe shape our strategy with the Islamic values to promote for regenerative development. So So Earthna is a Center for Sustainable Future, and it is part of Qatar Foundation. The name in Arabic means our legacy. That means our heritage, our ancestor knowledge, values, and ethics that we will carry on with us for the future. And in English, it means Earth, the Mother Earth that we all care about. And we need to care about because our existence, our survival relies deeply on it. So why Earthna at that time? Why Qatar Foundation thought of establishing Earthna Center? Earthna Center was based or developed, or the transition happened from Qatar being the concept into Earth. And why at that time? Because as the professor shared that we all are suffering now from the effects of climate change. And unfortunately, the disproportionate effects of change. So the most vulnerable to climate change effects are communities that are poorer, undeveloped communities, and communities or societies that are living in harsh climate zones, just like our region, where we have hot, quiet, and climate zone. And we're witnessing the extreme heat waves that this summer, the very low rainfall, early rain last year, the air pollution, and many force challenges that we are facing. So this is where Qatar Foundation thought that we need to have a high-level intervention, which is a policy-level intervention, where we bring all research, academia, all private, public sectors, all bring them together in a multidisciplinary approach, in a collaboration approach, system-wide approach, where we leverage all of these expertise to come up with innovative approaches to tackle climate change at a policy level. So we are here to bridge this gap between the knowledge, the research, and between implementation and application. So this is our vision, is to sustainable societies inherit water scarce environment. And our mission is to do this by policy advocacy, but policy that is based on evidence. And not only this, but also on a test-bed opportunities. So we have Education City as our test bed to see or to test our policies and to take this knowledge and lessons learned from these strategies or best practices to disseminate the message, whether it is nationally or internationally. So we've identified 5 themes that we need to work on. So the first one is sustainable energy, resource security and management, environmental protection and restoration, sustainable and circular economy, human and society well-being. Of course, because we also have our QF strategy objectives as our leading, as our compass, maybe let's say, that we want to have an advanced society, but a sustainable one that's not dependent on any other countries. And we want to make Education City a hub for knowledge, which is the tested opportunities. And we have these, our heritage comes as we want to advance Arabic language and to promote and engage. And this is where we want to have this multidisciplinary approach. With Al-Mizan, hopefully with Al-Mizan and the values of Al-Mizan, we want to rebuild this relationship between nature and between the humans. And for fairness, equity, all of this. So the 3 entities, if we come to the 3 entities of Earthna, of Al-Mizan, and of Qatar Foundation, we all recognize and realize that we need to employ all innovation approaches that we know to tackle climate change and its effects from an ethical and behavioral perspective, to do the social, let's say, change. Why? Because again, that the thing that whether we call it colonization or we call it industrial revolution or anything, just diverted us as Muslims from being spiritual communities into being materialistic communities. And that's when your professor mentioned that what is happiness to you? What is to be content? And where are your limits where you would be said, okay, I can stop here and do something else or invest somewhere else. So to me, this is a very interesting, the tripartite elements of Islam, because this reminds us again of how to think for the application of these beliefs. Now, Islam is unique as a religion that it has the spiritual side as well as it has the application. In the Quran and in Sunnah always, there never was a spiritual thing without the means of application. So the Prophet ﷺ taught us how to do everything, even how to eat, how to sleep, how to do everything. So the application is there. But as you've mentioned, we're missing all these things, maybe because of the industrial revolution, maybe of colonization, of all of this. So we want to have this ethical change first to change the patterns of consumption, of production, and of development in general. So again, we as Muslims, for Islam submission, it means that we believe in one God. But this belief is Islam. It has to be translated into faith, Iman. Why? Because we believe in the Day of Judgment. So the Day of Judgment and Akhirah, we will stand all accounted to our deeds. So that is a very good driver for us, that we are accounted for our deeds. And to connect this to the other step is to do ihsan, to do the most good that you can. And that's why, because al-Khilafah concept, God appointed us as we are custodians or guardians of it. So we need to care for Earth. We want to have people-centered development, but we need to know that we are part of the communities of life around us. We are part of an ecosystem, a whole ecosystem, and we're not alone. We are the guardians, but we're not alone in this. So this is where we identified our role as Earthna. We want to promote and endorse strategies and policies to do more of this good, to fulfill our khilafah and trusteeship, which is an amana, to do well and to promote this thing. Now,
I'll not do the exercise again, just like the doctor mentioned, but I would love if you list values that is related or relevant to your work or your position or your whatever you have. And now I'll take you through the process where we as Earthna started our thinking methodology on how to integrate Mizan into our system and try to follow the same. So what we started with is to put or list your values, your Islamic values, and then see what environmental challenges are affecting you from your position or your entity that you represent. And then how can we bridge this gap between both from an Islamic and from, let's say, application perspective. So what we did, if we have all these, if we have Earthna as a structure, we have a very strong base, which is Qatar Foundation and Mizan. And then we have our themes, the 5 theme areas, and we have these three supporting, let's say, structures, which are advocacy, outreach, sustainability, tested, and policy, and analysis and advice. Now, we know that our role from the tripartite that we've shared is that to balance and to do good, utmost good, and not to distort the perfect creation of Allah. الذي أحسن كل شيء خلقه. So he told us on our many verses that yes, we protected everything. So our role is not to distort this perfection. So we thought of 3 steps in order to be able to do this. The first one is they thought that we start by observe this creation. And this is in many verses, the emphasis that was conveyed to us. Look around, see the skies, the heaven, the earth, look at the bees, look at the flies, look at everything, so that you learn and observe. And then we'll start thinking of regenerating. So how are we going to regenerate these systems? And I'm not saying protecting, it's regenerate these systems. We not only want to protect or do less harm, rather we want to do more good. And the third thing is vocation, to fulfill our vocation, our role as individuals, as communities, and as institutions and places. So let me take you through one of these, let's say, themes. Sustainable and circular economy. That's one of our things that we are currently working on. Yes. So we started by observe. We want to observe the creation. So we realize that God who created the earth is a biodegradable. No waste. Whatever ends, or its life ends, it's a way back in cycle. So although yes, we have limited resources, as mentioned, we have limited resources, everything is limited, but again, it's this value or this resource over and over the cycle. It's a biodegradable. And he said that if you are a believer, it's a component. مثل النحلة لا تأكل إلا طيبا ولا تضع إلا طيبا. You're just like a bee. Anything you put in your mouth is good, or you use is good, and even whatever you bring out is also good. So we thought, okay, let's see it from a sustainable circular economy perspective. So what are the enablers that we want to have that will help us approach this thing? So we will call for circular economy. And then we have listed all of this, starting from education and awareness, as we believers need to understand this. And then circular built environment, everything should be circular. Even waste, we have to tackle it in a different dimension. Sorry, plastic pollution and all of this. Now let's focus on regenerative food system, because of Qatar we have food insecurity issues, especially after the blockade, and that was on the agenda, the national agenda. So how we thought of this? We thought, okay, that we have, in order to tackle regenerative food system, we have to think about water, biodiversity, consumption, behavioral change, soil and human health, urbanization, sustainable development. And for every policy or strategy our action, success indicators, and then sustainability. So we would have said that yes, we need to have a composting. That's to cycle again, just this. If it's on the ground, it will be decomposed and come back to the soil. So this is food composting. Then we have to start a community awareness program, support local food producers, and explore urban farming. Then we have the success indicators, and all of this, of course, with an ultimate circle that to care about all of these natural resources, we need to have an amount of food waste reduction, amount of local food produced, amount of food diverted, and all of this. And then a sustainability test bed, which is within Qatar Foundation, to prepare food green procurement policy, prepare food waste management plans, start food composting, collaborate with local food suppliers, and launch awareness campaign. So that's an example of how we just started to think or to break down this big, let's say, concept into actionable and doable steps. Another example that I would like to share with you is here. Again. Another example to share with you is environment protection and restoration. We all say our relation, we need to build our relation, to rebuild our relation with nature and all of this. And why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did tell us, do not go about acting wickedly on earth and spreading mischief. And again, that we are part of many communities. We share this with many communities around us. So in order to do this, we listed the enablers and start working on one. One of the enablers is education and awareness. So what we as Earthna are doing now is starting a Living Desert campaign, a Qatar marine ecosystem, develop public educational programs, and Qatar Sustainability Week. So, and also guided by, if Rasul Sallallahu is telling us that plant a tree and that will be considered as a charity that you will have for the Judgment Day, then that's a clear message. So we started with education and awareness. To share with you what we're doing, sometimes they say, oh, desert is empty. Nothing there is in desert. But there is a whole life in the desert. And it is one of the ecosystems, but we are not aware of it. So what we've started, that we published in this May, a book, it's called Hidden Beauty, to show under a campaign that is called Living Deserts. And it is by Renee Richard. And it is available in Qatar National Library. It's a beautiful book with beautiful photos that shows a unique ecosystem that we have, but we're not aware of this. And that is part of awareness, to rebuild this relation for those who do this dune bashing and all of this, to be careful that no, you're disturbing something. And also we're launching the Qatar marine ecosystems. Lesson plans for six Qatari unique marine ecosystems with in-class activities and nature-based activities. We have maps that can show the track that you can go to see this ecosystem without harming the environment. And this is very interesting, and this is an open source that will be available on our website as well. Another thing that we've learned from nature and from observation is that if we want to call for developments, we shall call for developments that are either they have, we call them low impact developments, or nature-based, so with nature-based solutions, where we can study the nature, how it's dealing with, for instance, water cycle, energy cycle, and try to mimic this in our design so that we can then reduce heat island effect as an adaptation and mitigation strategies. So in order to do this, we also had these ideas that we have, and we have a great opportunity with Education City, and we've launched a project now, a research project with Misharib, to study how Misharib was designed in order to see how these passive design principles can help us to promote for sustainable built environment. Now, another example, I'm sorry if I'm taking long, but another example is that we have under awareness and education, and these are the examples, sorry, of what the stages that we want to do. Pathways for action, we want to identify thriving ecosystem to learn from and expand for greater impact, to reduce high heat island effect and increase biomass here. Design outdoor environment. Our success indicators will be the reduction in ambient temperature and the improvement of air quality as well. And then we have the sustainability test bed with it, as I told you, with the project that we share. Another area that we are also working on under education and awareness, which is human and social well-being, society well-being, that is the education. We are as we are as Earthna, the national operator for the Eco Schools program. And the Eco School program, and these are the projects that we are working on now in regard to environmental education. But with our Eco School program, we're the national operator for the Eco Schools program and the Eco Campus program. So those two programs, they provide a framework where they empower students to be change at their school grounds and to make them do impactful, let's say, steps so that they can feel that they can do a difference. And it is based on a 7-step methodology to cover 12 themes. And we have a handbook we provide them, as we mentioned, with lesson plans that are all hands-on activities to recognize that, yes, we can do it, we can make a difference. So that's in general our journey with how we strive to shape our, let's say, strategy and mission and vision, and to try to implement some Islamic and values and Mizan principles as well. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Yes, they are. Sorry, can you use the mic? Yes, so that the people online can hear you?
Yes, sorry about that again. So what I'm saying is that I might have missed the beginning part of it, but is there anything about, I know there's a lot of talk going on about that. Because the foundation is part of the economic. Definitely work on, and a lot of schools are great. And now you are also operating values, and which ones are driven by, what type of a consensus is it coming actually from?
Okay, so with Eco School program is an international program. That started one thing about it that means that it's a checklist. One checklist that you have to do first, second. The 7-step methodology to plan a sustainable, long-term approach towards change. So it's not an initiative or an activity, but a journey, a green journey. So every school can adapt the system or the steps in the way that suits their culture, their needs. So the action plan might differ than another as school's action needs of the students. The priorities or the areas or priorities that students feel that they need to tackle at the beginning. Now here comes the Mizan idea, or the Mizan, let's say, second layer over this, and that's our role now with Islamic sustainability, and that's what we're trying to do, is to add this cultural and this, let's say, Islamic values and ethics into this learning, so that students learn and that this is part of, let's say, an ecosystem, and we are contributing not only for the environment, but we are also have this vocation of our identity and our place. So it's a very flexible framework that can be very flexible to and can be adapted in many ways.
Can I ask a question? My name is Mohammed Slavi and I am a PhD student at Imperial College. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I'm wondering if you're planning to publish policy brief in the future for institutions of Qatar.
A policy brief,
Yes.
Of course. Now, one of the things that we were asked to do as part of Qatar Foundation is to align all the sustainability strategy with the Islamic sustainability. So that's something that we are able to do. And then, of course, a policy will not be just a policy if we don't provide framework or pathways for different entities. So for application. So hopefully this will be coming, and depending on the sectors that I've mentioned, which is mainly now circular economy, education, awareness, and environmental protection.
You mentioned about these campuses. So what's your plan to involve school children in these initiatives? For example, we have these like beach cleanup and desert cleanup, and they're working in, I don't know if in silos or in collaboration, but like it has to be, we all have to work together.
Yes, and that's a very good question, because we do promote and we do, like, let's say, bless all of these initiatives, but these are all simple initiatives that, although they raise awareness and bring the attention of students to many environmental challenges, but these are just an activities. With eco schools, it's the mission of the eco schools is to place sustainability in the mission and vision of each school, so that it is not only in the way they teach, it is in the way they operate the school itself, the decision making of day-to-day processes at school. So then sustainability will be integrated in the education system, and that's the difference. So of course, as an eco school, they need to reach out to collaborate and work with others to support the initiatives that are suggested by students or their activities. So, but unless they have a clear vision on where they want to go and what they want to do, that will be just a simple activity, and that's it.
And right now, are you providing a platform for students to have a part as ambassadors for Earthna? Students to actually participate in these activities without that.
It's actually schools that need or students can participate through their schools in this program.
We can take let's say last two questions, please. Yes, and the gentleman over there, and then also please yourself. Yeah. First.
I saw on the graphs there was I was wondering now, Earthna would
Like, this is a great question, because this is one on the agenda of us as Earthna that we need to tackle, and this is green finance, and because we are one of our themes is circular economy, and that can't happen without green finance. So far, we're tackling it through the lens of circularity. Hopefully, after October, which we have the Qatar Sustainability Week, then we are because we were preparing a report on assessment of what's happening here in Qatar. Hopefully, after that will give us direction on where to focus. But one of the beautiful things about Islam in general values and about Mizan and other work, that a lot of work that has been done from the financial perspective. Like, even now, if we count, right, Doctor, as you know better, if we count mainly the work has been done on the financial sector, from takaful to green bonds to our Islamic bonds, to all of this Islamic finance on banking in general. So that's a very good strength area for our Islamic values that we work on, right? And the other one is that, as you saw, one of our let's say themes is sustainable energy, where we want to harness these natural resources to provide equal opportunities for all communities. So if you are not a poor country, you can harness sun to provide energy. You can harness water or vapor, humidity in the air to generate water for yourself. So that's another area. But that's on the plan, and hopefully after the assessment report that we're doing, we'll see where to focus.
One final question, please. Yes, yours, madam.
Dr. Ahmed wants to.
Okay, but let's go with the order. First, please, and then please go first.
Thank you very much. Very impressive to all the plan and already existing actions. I'm curious in regards, I'll go back to the eco schools, especially because of how knowledge is shared. Are you in some way integrating, monitoring how the parents get an impact from what is shared from the eco schools? And knowing that in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, partnership is one of the key drivers for things to happen. How are you integrating the opportunity, for example, in these schools to bring the companies and organizations that parents are working at and sometimes engage more deeper into some of the next actions for the challenges? I'm asking this especially because with Physicians for Social Responsibility in Boston some years back, for us it was important to tackle the topic on climate change, but from a different angle, bringing the health as central. In that time, health was not perceived as central. Now, after the pandemic, we can see how central it is. So, how are the measurements or focus on learning of parents and integrating their institutions in your actions together with the kids in the eco schools happening at the moment, and what's the plan? Sorry for the lengthy.
One good thing is that one of the first steps of forming for the eco schools is to form an eco committee, where 50% of the eco committee are students, but the rest should be from teachers, staff, and parents. And when we do the second step, which is environmental review, we reach out to parents so that they can help in identifying what schools need to prioritize in order to tackle so that they can drive change. So it is, let's say, a partnership with the wider community, but still, of course, our role as Earthna is not only to provide this methodology, but also to bring these different partners on board so that they can support the whole ecosystem for achieving the goals.
Final question, Mr. Ahmed Gharib from Quranic Botanic Gardens.
To give the opportunity for all schools to be a part of this great program, because I think within the coming 5 years, the eco school will be the #1 program for all the country. Right now,
yeah.
Still limited to some.
Sure. Yeah.
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 Can reach the curriculum director in this education. They are very helpful. The green school funded from the UNESCO, because there is a UNESCO school right now belonging to the committee. I think if we merge all of this one under the eco school with the young botanist, the Quranic botanic garden. All of this one should be merged under one program, which is.
You are absolutely right. For our promise from the very and a good news that we are working in this and in collaboration with Dr. Talk and Dr. Diogo, that's working on a report that to show the legacy of EcoSchool so far and to do an assessment of the many initiatives that we have here in Qatar and where EcoSchool as a program stands within the many initiatives and to propose, let's say, a direction, a policy direction of where to go in order to integrate this environmental education in the education system of the schools in general. And our proposal is to use the eco schools as a tool to achieve, because we all know that Qatar is committed to integrate environmental education. It's in its curriculum by 2025. Yes, yes. So that's why, yeah. Yes. It's the overarching methodology that will then have all of these other initiatives under that, let's say, methodology or vision of the school. So this is overarching, and then whatever initiative you do will definitely contribute to something that will help you eventually be an eco school. So that's part of the plan, and hopefully this report will be. Yes. Sorry for taking so long. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rama, and thank you everyone for staying with us so far. I know it's been really long, but this is our last presentation, and then we can go home and come back tomorrow for more. Okay, so allow me to introduce our next speaker, Mohammed Hassouna from Quranic Botanic Garden. He is a horticulturist. I will give the floor to him to explain what that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Bayan. I understand the feeling of last presentation. So inshallah, I will not be long. Just my presentation, about 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. Inshallah, will not be. Yeah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa salatu wa salam ala ashraf al-mursalin, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Today, I think my presentation is not far from the presentation of our colleague, Dr. Roba. And also, it's very difficult as you see in the presentation to represent officers from I'd like to give insights how KBG providing education program as a botanic first, I talk on behalf of Ms. Fatma Al-Khalifi. She couldn't represent today, but she said all her greetings to all. The rules of Quranic garden, we have 4 main rules: education one, environmental and scientific culture recreation rule. The environmental rule that we preserve the diversity of flora of Qatar and the plants mentioned in the Holy Quran and the Hadith. Also with scientific facilities and preservation, conservation in situ and ex situ seed preservation in our facilities, we represent the scientific rule. And also, as you can see outside this hall, we have the park and the Quranic Botanic Garden. As a botanic garden, we could also furnish the culture and recreation rule, and we are lucky that we received professors this morning, and inshallah we will plant 1 tree tomorrow under Al Mizan, so you are all invited to participate with us planting a tree. But today I will focus on the educational role that Quranic Botanic Garden really produce 3 main programs, and those programs are providing educational extracurriculum for students in different ages. First one, I will start with this program because I'm working in it with a student since 2017, and this program has and when we have the crisis happening in 2017 that touched for first time ever the issue of food security. And we sought here to contribute with all the countries. Most of the country were looking for products and how to bring the products to the market. We saw there is a blockage from many countries for food import and export. We couldn't at this time to think about what is the future of food security in Qatar. I'm so sorry first for my bad English, but I hope the idea reached you. Uh, how we can see the leaders of food security in Qatar? Is it a Quranic botanic garden? As a botanic garden, touching the students every day can play a role in supporting the food security program in Qatar? The question we addressed, and the answer was yes, we can do something in this. So we started with our students in 2017 to learn them what is the challenges of agriculture, what is the challenge of production of vegetables. At this time, 2017, Qatar only produced 19% of their fresh food and over 80% imported from outside. So when the crisis happened, there is, alhamdulillah, food available everywhere, but there is still, thinking could the food, impact during this crisis. Actually, we found a huge response from the students and from the schools, and good support also from the ministry, from everywhere, to have this practical workshop that supported secondary schools. Why we selected secondary schools at this phase to, pushing them to study and to think about the future of food security. And inshallah, I will show you examples here how the students, Ahmed here, learning them how they can understand the type of soil and can make enhancement. And this production of tomato is one in the Dukhan Secondary School in Dukhan City. And this is students, imagine the Qatar students and all students participating in doing the irrigation system of establishing a farm. So we targeting in this school, in this program, public, private, secondary school, and the program is offered in Arabic language. And also, we expected some outcomes from the program is providing the schools with a practical knowledge about challenges of agriculture in Qatar, especially the vegetable productions, and also orienting the students in the field of food security and enhancing their knowledge to the environmental challenges in the tackling the food crisis in Qatar and also outside Qatar, and also empowering the students with green practical skills. Taking the students from the school to the field and they make their hands dirty, make their action, and they can learn from their work, from their action is something unique for them and was very impactful for them. Also, we take the students with their products. Imagine this: the products comes from the schools to Turba market, the very famous market here in Education City, to practice the marketing skills with community, and they can see and hear teacher and all of these students this day Education City assigned to these students to sell their products in this food as entrepreneur opportunity for the students. And all of this, this farm, this student farm in the QF nursery or Qatar Foundation Plant Nursery we have in the conservation center, and this farm is a big farm established by the students in Dukhan Secondary School in Dukhan City, and they harvest many of the products selling to the community. As the second program we work with the students is the Young Botanist program that have a main gate called Environmental Research Contest. My colleague Ahmed Gharib is leading this program. It's like initiative that support schools to do a scientific research we have environmental challenges, especially here in arid and semi-arid, as a semi-arid region. And we have the challenges in water, we have the challenges in weather, we have the challenges in land, soil, everywhere. So we offering the students every year opportunity to do a research. And our role here is to be like supporter only to the students. We give them all the facilities, we give them all the advices, we take them to many field trips to Qatar University, to HBQ, to many places to find out what is the challenging. They are thinking about it. We need the youth, or we need the students, the secondary school students, to think about what are challenges they see. Not us as as a specialist in the field. We may understand small, narrow, but from their perspective, they innovate more. We couldn't do expect. I think Ahmed, after in the Q&A session, can tell us what fields students presented to us, and also show the ministers like municipality or Karama or other facilities how they can produce or how they can innovate in solving the environment challenges in Qatar. So the program is series of lectures, discussions offered by group of professors, researchers from different entities here in Qatar, and there is like a botanical fair or like a research fair. Students has to provide their proceeding, and this research is subject to a committee to select the best winner from them as encouragement for the students. And every year we print a proceeding book for their researches that published to all the organization and distributed for all the organizations in Qatar. The third program is Fun and Learn program, and this program is designed for the kids and primary schools students. And here we would like to establish an idea for the small or the little kids, little students, how how important is the environment around you. So we bringing them to the Quranic Botanic Garden or to the ocean park, and trying to give them exercise as a fun and to learn something behind the botanical information or the nature around them, in order to impact also on them how the nature is important here in a country like Qatar is with dry in a dry region. So as you see, the program is have some stations. Most of the stations like play games, but these games is connected to environmental message that really can offer them with a result when they are leaving this program. Like maze, like many of activities, beach boarding, treasure hunt, all of this is the steps for them to learn about how nature is important and how our reaction should be for our nature. And you see students from primary schools are really very happy and very interactive with these stations and with this activities offered in the Quranic Botanic Garden. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I'm so sorry for the confusion, but for my message reached you, and questions please.
Thank you so much. I guess we have a question.
So that's here my Arabic ends.
So, Sanian, I want to ask that these initiatives, are they only for Qatar Foundation schools? Schools under Qatar Foundation, or are you planning to involve all other schools? Because now the weather is changing and, post-COVID,
school children can participate through the school platform in such learning trips?
All,
Outside trips.
yes, thank you for your question. All the schools in Qatar are invited to participate in such programs, and we, I think, every September send letters to Minister of Education to circulate to all the schools, and we get them even private, public, Arabic, English schools. We welcome all the schools, but in some programs like food security, we only welcome Arabic school, but not necessarily from Qatar Foundation, even from outside public governmental school. We welcome them in our programs.
The state of Qatar does not have good soil for plantation. Most of our topsoil is not suitable. So it's not suitable for agricultural purposes. So if we want to use it, we have to do the process of what is called soil improvement, which is mixing it with other, like compounds, so that clay mainly, so that we can have a suitable soil for agriculture. Now, to actually do that all the time, it is not sustainable because it's very expensive. So in your research center, have you actually dealt with that, problem? Because we have a predicament. We have a situation that we can improve the soil, but it will be very expensive. So it is like buying a Rolls Royce to go for a distance of 5 kilometers. It's not sustainable.
Yes, thank you. I want the man beside you to answer this question.
Thank you so much. Actually, this issue, we should talk about two issues. One is for permaculture, and also we had to use the research of but I think the main problem is not only the soil. The main problem is the water consumption. Water consumption is much more than the soil. The soil could be enhanced somehow, but yeah, the soil improvement. But and we are using such a problem, which is what we are using the fungus, the fungi of the soil to enhance the soil itself. We had a great program right now with some of the private companies and Ministry of Municipality Research Center. Right now, we are doing such a great project called the mycorrhiza. The mycorrhiza is such a kind of fungi that extract from the soil itself in order to enhance the different chemicals. What I mean, each plant it has its own fungi. We are extracting the fungi from the roots of the plant and return it back to the soil again. It gives a great value for the soil and enhance it very well. Right now, especially for the permanent plants of Qatar, for example, like the salam, the summer, all of this one, we are extracting with very simple technique, extracting the fungi, very simple technique with rice and cooked chloroquine, and then we are keeping inside to collect all this fungus, and then extracting this and throwing this for the top surface of the soil, and this is enhancing the soil with 100%. But the issue is not the soil. The issue of the water is the water consumption right now. Water consumption right now, if you look at the Shamal, the number of the new wells digged right now in the Shamal is over the capacity that would be in the country right now. So the water consumption right now is very high, especially with the scarce of the rainfall. And also there is another projects in the country that taking because to enhance Qatar is a peninsula, so the pressure of the water, the water right now is so high, so it means you need to put water inside, not to take. So the main problem right now, we need to pump the water inside the water to take this water outside of the peninsula. This is the main problem, and this is a critical and serious issue that we are facing, and we are studying right now in the country. So many projects right now, that like Arabat, taking the rains
and taking the water inside the underground water right now. So many projects are working in order to keep pushing. We are it's like we are pushing the water that comes in order to get out from the underground layers. And the country right now is spending hundreds of millions right now in order to achieve this target, in order to secure the water. This is the critical problem. But for the you are right 100%. And even Muhammad talked to me in the yesterday. In order to make your Quranic Botanic Garden accredited by the EGCI Botanical Conservation, it should be free. Why? Because this fit was coming from all the forests in the world. We are taking this from the forest, moving this to other countries. So in order to be accredited, you have to be zero pollution coming from outside. So it's a big challenge right now for not for here in all the countries. Just to enhance the soil service, it's costly, and also against the rules of the botanic garden, against the rules of the ACDGs. But we are in a challenge. Really, we are in a challenge. But
I want to add also one comment on this one, that the amount of lands, the fertile lands or fertile soil lands in Qatar now is 62,000 hectares. That's enough to reach 100% of food security or self-sufficient of food. We have 62,000 hectares in Qatar. But the main challenge is water, from where we can get enough water to plant those 62,000 hectares every year. So, exactly. Yes.
If you allow me this work. I mean, in one sentence, there is also when there are constraints, when there are environmental constraints, this will be a driver for innovation. So one modality is to overcome these natural constraints. One is to have soil agriculture. And in Singapore, they plant over the roof. There's vertical agriculture, and there is aquaculture. And there are more than one way to overcome the barrier. So I think we need to look out of the box and try to be innovative by looking at soil agriculture and planting over the roof, etc., etc. So there are more than ways to overcome the natural constraint, perhaps.
But also, and apologies for my Qatari brothers, Qatar is the highest consumers of water, as well as the highest producers of food waste. And 40% of your food is being wasted. And unfortunately, in Ramadan, it gets to 60% of your food is wasted. So thinking in integral manner, comprehensive manner, your water that you consume, I believe it's 450 liters per capita per day, the consumption in Qatar. 80% of that can be treated and used as irrigation water. The food waste can be composted and used as naturally, regenerating the soil. So, as Dr. already mentioned, innovation is required, and you have here innovation hubs. But the name of the game should be thinking of integrally the circular economy. Nothing is wasted, nothing should be wasted, and everything can be used and reused. So if you think this mentality, I think all of your waste could be resources that you gain.
Please, Dr. Naim, first, switch off.
mindset of this generation, not only our own, but the ones we are building today. How can we apply this understanding that
Yes, very good question. Thank you very much. Because if you think an addition course, nobody likes it. I used to live in one of the best education. They are also number one. Additional course. From kindergarten to so it is just this understanding is the core value of curriculum. They have to make this is why all ambitious make Mizan in the mindset of most of them, they will be start making what they said translate words. There is no shortest of water. Said no. Next to a river, don't waste. It is a respect for the system. To the creation. Yes, thank you.
I think just in one sentence, Anglophone very. I think the embodiment of knowledge. I mean, when we talk when the prophet wife were asked what about how was the man from Prophet والسلام, he said kind of Quran. So he was embodiment in the social DNA. So it's about mainstreaming. You know, it shouldn't be an afterthought. So it's about mainstreaming and embodying knowledge. It's very critical. So I think you're absolutely right. It should be part of the early design process, part of the culture, mindset, and part of the thinking process. And I think what Dr. Ibrahim has alluded to as the Nordic experience can be a less ideas for inspiration. Thank you.
I have one point for the area we are working with the students. Curriculum, we think school level concept that we take the extracurricular activity. They are not the life. Most of them forget about the life. They need to forget the curriculum, but they will never forget the basic. Yeah, curriculum is very important. Yes, take the victims. This is the most important. Teach this that teach you this. Like I want to do this, not to study this. This is a main different concept. Yeah, yes, correct.
There is now a trend, and this is something that we on our agenda to work on, is learning ecosystems.
Yes.
Which means that learning happens in real life more than it happens in classrooms. And this is why we've part of Eco Schools, we're developing lesson plans that are nature-based activities with maps to show where to go. It's not just like go see the jellyfish, go see the whatever. No, it's like you have a map that can show you how you visit this ecosystem without harming the ecosystem as a whole. And with your mentioned that yes, it should be integrated. This is why we say that Eco Schools is different than other Eco Schools, because it's in the mission and vision of the school to be sustainable. Now, one point that we have here, community, a very diverse community from very different backgrounds. So we have Muslims, but we have also from all over the world. So our learning and teaching should also be responsive to this diversity. So,
we can help you with that because this is
we would love your help.
Religions, all values, all faiths, they have something to contribute. There are plenty of examples from all religions on any subject.
Yeah, we do totally recognize that the change should be ethical and should be behavior change to change the consumption and production.
I'd like to add something really nice that happened today. So we talk. I'm speaking from a family perspective. I just graduated and I'm a student, an ex-student now, and I just came back home. So I'm settling back into family life in my family. and just kind of observing after being away from for so long from home or from Qatar, observing how my family interacts with one another and what the routine is. And my mom, in having learned from her own from her own mother, so from my grandmother, and as a way of feeling connected to her, takes just any kind of leftover rice or bread and kind of like disperses it in the garden and feeds the birds, and that kind of is something that she hopes is a teaching that in order to both the memory of our grandmother, my grandmother alive, kind of passes down to generate in the future generation. But my little brother asked her the other day, so he's 10 years old, asked my mom, what do I do with this water? Like there's always, water because my mom said, don't waste the water. So we said, what do I do with it if I don't get to drink it? And she said, you can just, try to think of something, okay? And today she came back and she saw him out in the garden. She said, what were you doing? And he said, I was putting the water in the soil. I finished drinking it and there was a lot of water, so I thought the soil could use it. He's 10 years old. So, this is where, learning happens at home, learning happens through experience, through doing. And it's just like these little moments that bring hope that, I mean, he has so many friends and a lot of the things that they talk about is, just like they learn from each other as well. So, and we all do. So, yeah, that would be a nice thing to share.
Any other questions? Yes, actually, today what I presented is the only educational program oriented to students from K to 12. But we, on the other hand, we have community program in the Quranic Botanic Garden for a tree planting campaign that we invite, community to come and plant trees with us in the park or in the roda, in a desert, or in other places. And we also have agriculture support program for household spaces, especially after the pandemic. Through online workshops, we did many of them, inviting influencers that can really take the messages, and every day or every week we post, like agriculture informations on our social media. Please, you are invited to follow QBG or Quranic Botanic Garden social media. You will find plenty of information about agriculture. But we also do support, especially for this food security. We train Qatari also people in the Qatar Development Bank, that everyone would like to take a loan for agriculture greenhouse. We provide for them the efficient training skills to be. But also, your point is very, very important and reflect one gap that we need to support the local community and the local families, how they can enhance and be supported for self-sufficient food, especially from vegetables. Very appreciated. Yes. Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Inshallah. Inshallah. We shall be in touch, inshallah. Exactly. Inshallah. Please.
that are taken away from. So isn't there an initiative to have these or our company as an activity maybe map the trees compound and try to protect? For me, it's incredible and very devastating to see someone moving into a field touching everything, all the bougainvilleas, the bottom, and then just putting a plastic glass. I mean, it's fantastic. But can you just for example, I could take this. Need a little bit different support by other organizations. Like
You answered the key word in this question, awareness. The awareness is very, very important for the community. How the tree is important in our ecosystem here in Halifax. Tree takes 30 years to grow, but it takes 30 seconds to cut. Yeah, but there is some trees they're taking out due to some also reasons. Example, coniferous tree. We need to take it out from the community because it causes big problems in the infrastructure. And wait for Sobus geniflora. Also, it kills native plants or flora around it. So it has abscisic acid in the roots. So there is some trees are taken out by Baladia or municipality, but not by the community because they understand what they are doing. But what you are, addressing is a really, really valuable initiative. Why not? We can cooperate to address it to the community. I think now, after 10 years from this construction period of Qatar, we can see the green everywhere, alhamdulillah. Here in Doha, beautification for startup for the cup is something unique, but before it doesn't have. Now we have like a wealth of green resources that really we need to conserve, we need to protect, we need to take care, not only by the municipality, but all the members of the community are invited to take their roles to preserve this. Thank you so much for this. Other questions? I think I completed my hour now. I'm so sorry.
So much for being here today. We are reaching almost 3 hours. So thank you so much for your engagement. And that's not finishing. Tomorrow we are continuing. If I were to share with you few names who will be with us tomorrow, the opening remarks at 4 p.m. tomorrow will be delivered by Dr. Fazl Khaled. He's an Islamic eco-theologian, founder and director of Islamic Foundation for Ecology and Environmental Science. So he couldn't make it here, but he'll be with us online. And then we will have Dr. Gonzalo Damata from Earthna, the director, and also we have a colleague, Mr. Darwish Ahmed Al-Shabani from Qatar. He's also the Secretary General of Global Public Diplomacy Network, which is doing a lot of work on environmental diplomacy. And then Dr. Mustafa, and then in the second panel, we will have our esteemed colleagues representing Mizan, Dr. Iyas, Dr. Ibrahim, and Dr. Odeh. And we will have their brother Ahmed Karib again with us. He is my most favorite horticulturalist, right? That's this. And you are? Just, okay. Then I need to study it more actually. It's too technical, but of course the opening remarks. There will be two opening remarks, and the first one will be delivered by our Dean, Dr. Recep, and the second and the shorter one with a bit of a presentation about my strange past. So I'll be doing it, but I will make some connections, don't worry. So, and then I think we'll finish it afterwards. Another day is awaiting us. So please stay tuned. And one more applause to all the presenters, everyone. Thank you.
Tomorrow there will also be a lunch, so don't be surprised.
if you come at 3, you come for lunch. Today there was a bit of confusion, so. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone online, for joining. I'll see you tomorrow.
Alhamdulillah, I'm not that strong. Listen to me. أمانة عندي. محمد يعني بيقول فيك يعني Yeah, because I was studying when I came this way, traveled and then sitting right there.